Hello everyone, welcome to my today's lesson. Today I'll be talking about content word. Content. You can remember it like main words or major words. It's not the synonym, but from context we can say that. Content word. This is particularly important for your IELTS reading module. In reading module, you need to understand the passage, the question, well, not the passage to be specific, the questions, and you should have some understanding of the passage so that you can answer the question. Not really that you must understand everything from your reading passage, not like that. Clear? I'm going to rephrase that. In your IELTS reading exam, you will have long passages, okay? But what is your target? Your target is you have your question and you are trying to maximize the correct answers. There is no special marking to understand the entire passage. Okay, so in some cases maybe you don't need to understand the passage or the paragraphs. How? Let's come here. Take your time. You may pause this video and read this one. Okay, let's say this is a sentence. This 4-line sentence is from a reading passage. Okay, now there are some other sentences here. The question is asking for heading, list of heading. The question type is list of heading. So the question is asking for the title for this paragraph. Okay, the title. Now come here. Learn basic driving skills first, then focus on acceleration. Basic driving skill. How this is connected here? Well, maybe you already hear something like you should scheme and scam, something like those things. Some common preparation tips you may learn. But when the question is for list of heading, you should try to skip some information. Skip, not scheme or scan. Okay? No scan or skim. You should just try to skip the entire thing. But how can we do that? We can do that when we understand the content words, when we can recognize these content words in your IELTS reading paragraphs. Like here, if you read this sentence, then you should understand if you need to determine the heading, then the network is enormous. This is the main information, man. This is the information. The network seemed enormous. Okay. Now, after that, there is this one, dash. Okay. And then there is an example. Okay, so basically this entire clause, it's not necessary to answer this particular list of heading question. Okay, so content word, which one is content word here? Network enormous. These are the content words in this entire sentence. Okay, you understand so far, right? So let's move on. Now, at first glance, something is enormous. In IELTS reading, it will happen. You should understand the psychology. At first glance, it was easy. So basically in the next couple of sentences, maybe the writer will say like it was difficult. At first glance, the network seemed enormous, very weak. Okay. Closer statistical inspection. Closer. First glance. So we already have some antonym style context, right? So even if I don't know the sentence here, I know the scene. I understand the scene, okay? I understand the background of this writing, even without reading the next sentence. So this is a psychological setup. You should have that psychological setup. When you read this sentence, not the entire sentence, you read the content words. After reading the content words and then moving to the next sentence, without even completely reading the sentence, you already know the scene. Okay? So these are all the trick from here. Content word. This type of situation, the content words type of tips, I would say, is especially important for your list of heading type of question, as well as agree, disagree, or sometimes writer's opinion. For this type of questions, content word is really crucial. Okay. Now I'm almost done with this tutorial. Just have a look here. Colon, semicolon. So in a sentence, if you experience like a clause, then semicolon, then another clause, this is a sentence. Okay. In a sentence, you have a clause, then colon, and then another clause. So, excuse me. If you know the grammar rules, here in this case we have a rule. The rule is, if there is a colon and there is two clause, one is here and another one here, two clause, then the second clause is more important. So whenever you encounter this type of sentence structure in your IELTS reading exam, you will just skip this information. You don't need to read this type of information. You will read only the clause after the colon. Okay? After the colon, whatever is the clause or independent clause, whatever, you will read that. You don't need to read this one to answer list of heading type of question. Not everything. Okay? You cannot apply this type of tips for your fill in the gaps. Okay? So this is particularly focused on list of heading when you need to answer list of heading. Okay? Now another formula, semicolon. You have a clause here, another clause here, and you have a semicolon. Now both clauses are equally important. Okay? Both clause, which means if you already read the previous clause and you find a semicolon, you can skip the second clause. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, you should recognize this type of punctuations in your reading passage, and you can skip some phrases or some clauses depending on the situation. Okay? So I hope you will apply this type of techniques in your IELTS reading exam so that you can save some time and more efficient to answer your IELTS reading. Okay? Thank you.